She paraded me around like I was part of the furniture, tailored, smiling, and silent. I played the part she wanted, the loyal husband who shook hands, posed for photos, and never asked where she really went after bored dinners. Then came the night I found out half the room knew before I did, that her affair wasn't just private, it was performative. She didn't just cheat, she humiliated me for sport. So I made sure the next time she saw me smile, it would be on a stage she could never touch. We were invited to a private event at the governor's residence, one of those strictly no media nights. We had big donors, judges, a few national names, the kind of crowd where people smile while calculating your net worth. She lived for these nights. Had her dress picked out 2 weeks in advance. Had my suit sent for tailoring without asking me. Everything about the evening was planned like a photo op. I was there to stand beside her, shake hands, and shut up. She called it strategic exposure. I called it standing still and not embarrassing her. People knew her name before they knew mine. That's how she liked it. She worked with a political consultancy that specialized in image rehab, mostly for politicians caught doing what they shouldn't. She made messes disappear. At home, she made conversations disappear. That night, her client was one of the rumored speakers, a former senator back in the spotlight after a quiet settlement that kept his name out of a courtroom. She said we were supporting his return. We got to the venue early. She handed me my talking points, literally on a folded piece of paper. People to mention, names not to forget, who not to stand near for too long. I folded it once more and didn't take it out again. An hour in, we were working the room. She floated. I stood where I was told. Then a man I didn't know walked up to me, drink in hand, and said, "You're a better man than me." No way I could smile through that. He didn't clarify, didn't need to. His eyes flicked across the room, toward her, then to the senator, then back to me. And he raised his glass. That was the moment the tone shifted. Not for everyone else, just for me, because I wasn't holding a drink. I was holding a line I didn't know had already been crossed. I didn't react at the event, didn't ask questions, didn't follow her across the room. She was still smiling, posing for photos with the senator's wife like they were old friends. The senator stood 3 feet behind them, glass in hand, watching her the way men only watch what they think they already own. He was smooth, well-rehearsed, the kind of man who'd been caught before and learned how to keep his name out of headlines. And she had the same smile for him that she used when she wanted something. Not warmth, performance. We left just after midnight. Her heels clicked down the stone steps like punctuation. She asked if I had a good time. I said it was informative. She didn't ask what I meant. The next morning, I checked the guest list online. Someone always leaked it. The senator's name was at the top. Below that, a charity foundation I didn't recognize. Her name was listed twice, once under her consultancy and again as a silent board advisor to the foundation. That was new. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off. It's just a formality, nothing public. The next day, I checked again. The foundation had one primary donor listed publicly, the senator. And when I looked through archived press releases from 6 months earlier, I found a photo, smaller event, same venue. She was standing beside him, no mention of me. It wasn't proof of an affair, but it was enough to know this didn't start recently. She hadn't just let the line blur. She erased it months ago. She'd always been careful. Too careful. The kind of woman who kept separate phones for business and personal. The kind who had 2 Instagram accounts, one public, one family only. The kind who cleared her browser history even on the home laptop we both used. Not because she had something to hide, because hiding things was second nature. It was part of the job, or at least that's what she always said. I'd started collecting things. Quietly. Not evidence, not at first. Just moments. Moments where her words didn't line up with the facts, where her alibis were too vague, where her friends smiled a little too tightly when I mentioned her name. People don't always tell you the truth, but they often react to it, whether they mean to or not. And in that social circle, where every glance was currency, I started noticing the flinches. The next event was a charity awards gala. She was being recognized for advancing civic image restoration. The irony didn't need explaining. I was seated next to a journalist, one of the friendly ones, she'd called her. An older woman, sharp eyes, had covered political scandals for years. Halfway through the salad course, she leaned in. "So you're sticking it out?" I looked at her, didn't speak. She held her wine, waited, then smiled. "Not my business, but if you ever decide to tell your side, you'd have a sympathetic audience." And just like that, it clicked. She knew. They all knew. It wasn't just infidelity. It was strategic. My wife was using me as cover, as credibility, as a human firewall between her reputation and the truth, and I'd been playing the role perfectly. After the event, I didn't go home. I drove to a hotel across the city and paid in cash. Took out my phone and listed everything I'd seen so far. The guest list overlap, the foundation records, the photographer's watermarked files I found online with her in the background, laughing, touching the senator's arm, her calendar invites to off-record sessions with unnamed attendees, her overnight business trips that lined up with private jet logs posted by watchdog accounts. None of it was proof. But together, it painted a full picture. And I wasn't in it. The next morning, I went to a friend, an attorney, discreet, the kind who handled non-disclosure agreements and quiet separations. I asked what it would take to walk away clean. He asked what I was trying to protect. "You want your name back or your dignity?" "Both," I said. He nodded. "Then stop waiting for her to ruin them first." 3 days later, I had a private investigator on retainer. Not for photos in hotels, not for gossip, just for timeline matching, public events, corporate filings, emails, a pattern. He was efficient, and the pattern came faster than I expected. One night, the PI handed me an envelope across a small table at a coffee shop no one we knew would be caught dead in. Inside, a printed email thread, 2 names, hers and the senator's. Dates matched. Tone was casual, too casual. He called her darling. She called him Jay. They shared boardroom logistics, but they also shared flights. One line stood out, "Let's not make him suspicious. You still need the optics." That was the line that flipped the switch. I hadn't just been cheated on, I'd been used, intentionally, as camouflage, as PR. When I got home, she was already asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone was in the kitchen, plugged in, screen down. I didn't touch it, didn't need to. She wasn't going to confess. I wasn't going to ask. We were both past that. Now it was about control, about how the truth would come out, and who would look clean when it did. And I wasn't going to be the one cleaning up her mess this time. I didn't tell her I knew. I didn't change how I spoke to her. Didn't treat her differently. Didn't flinch when she kissed my cheek before leaving for another client dinner. Because the moment you show your hand, you give them time to adjust. I wasn't interested in a confrontation. I was planning a transition. First step was financial. We had joint accounts, but I handled none of them. Not by design, by habit. She insisted early in our marriage that image was everything, and if the woman handles the finances, it signals trust. So I let her. She was good at appearances. So I gave her the appearance of control while I opened separate accounts under my name only, quietly redirected my salary, paused automatic transfers. Within 2 weeks, my money was out. Every asset I had on paper was moved to accounts she didn't know existed. The balance stayed visible, but the value was gone. Second step was personal. I contacted the journalist from the gala, didn't tell her everything, just enough. I showed her one document, the board foundation link with the overlapping travel dates. She nodded like she'd seen it coming. "If this gets public, she's finished." "I'm not leaking it," I said. "I just want it saved, somewhere safe, for the right moment." She understood. "You want to control the narrative." Exactly, because I was looking for payback. I was building a timeline, one I could step out of with dignity, and let the truth follow behind me like smoke. She started to notice the distance. One night, she said, "You've been quiet." I said, "I've just been watching." That shut the conversation down. She went to bed early. I stayed on the couch until I heard the shower. Not because I didn't want to talk, because I had nothing left to pretend about. A week later, I had my attorney file the initial divorce petition. It went through quietly, email delivery only with receipt tracking. She opened it at around past 2 that Thursday. By 2:23, she called me. I let it ring. She texted, "What is this?" I replied, "Exactly what it looks like. No explanation, no emotion, no warning shot." I'd already warned her, she just didn't hear it. That night, she came home furious, accused me of trying to humiliate her. Said this would hurt both of us. I said, only if the public hears about it. She froze in silence because that was the first time she realized I wasn't bluffing. She tried to call a meeting, not with me, with the senator, her firm, and a private crisis PR consultant she'd used for clients. She thought I didn't know. But one of the firm's junior partners, someone I'd helped years ago get his first campaign job, sent me a text. Your name's in the room. They're trying to get ahead of whatever they think you're planning. I wasn't planning anything, not yet, but it was useful to know how quickly she turned. She emailed me 2 days later with a proposal to resolve matters amicably. It included mutual non-disclosure, no official reason for divorce, financial terms that returned less than 30% of what was jointly accrued, a mutual statement that named irreconcilable scheduling conflicts. I didn't respond. I sent it straight to my attorney, who added it to the growing archive of proof, because her need for image control had just become evidence. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. A community fundraiser, not political, just local, where both our names had been listed months in advance. I showed up because I had committed. She showed up because she hadn't expected me to. She wore white, big smile. Everything about her looked rehearsed. The moment she saw me, she flinched, because I wasn't standing in a corner anymore. I wasn't her background. I was standing with 2 board members and a reporter she hadn't seen. I didn't look at her. She looked at me. And that's how the dynamic shifted. In front of a room full of people who weren't supposed to know anything had happened yet. That same night, the journalist who'd been holding the receipts reached out. She asked if I was ready to release a version of the truth. Nothing defamatory, just factual. I gave her the go-ahead. She published 2 days later. No names, but the dates and connections were unmistakable. A source close to the situation confirmed the divorce filing. A foundation restructure was mentioned. So was a travel overlap with a former senator under informal advisement. I didn't watch her respond to it, didn't check her socials, didn't ask around, but within a week her consultancy had issued a formal restructure announcement. She stepped down from 3 advisory boards. 2 clients pulled future contracts. And one of her speeches, the one she had rewritten for that senator, was quietly canceled. She emailed me again. You said you wouldn't make this public. I replied, I didn't. I just stopped hiding it. The divorce finalized in silence. No courtroom, no photos, no statements, just digital signatures passed through encrypted inboxes and a final confirmation from the clerk's office that my name was once again just mine. She didn't try to stop it, didn't make a scene, didn't offer a counter, because by then the image she was trying to protect had already cracked, and standing next to me wasn't good for her optics anymore. I wasn't a threat, I was a reminder of what she used, of what she needed to cleanly replace, and she couldn't. She moved out 2 weeks later. I came back to a half-empty condo in silence I didn't need to explain. She left the furniture, took the champagne glasses, left a photo album we never filled, and a single envelope with no note, no apology, just a copy of her new business card. New title, new agency, new surname, not mine. I saw her once more, briefly. A policy roundtable I attended months later, quietly, as a donor's guest. She was in the far corner of the room, seated 2 chairs down from a man whose campaign had just survived a scandal. She saw me, didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't speak. She blinked once and turned her head. Because even now, surrounded by people who pretend nothing is ever personal, she knew I hadn't exposed her. I just let her unravel on her own stage. And I was fine with that, because in the end, she made me her trophy husband. But I left the shelf standing and took the nameplate with me. And as always, thanks for watching, like, share, and let's know what you think. Until next time, take care.